Hey, I'm Mo for YouTube videos. I am a feminist and a lesbian, and I make conversational commentary videos about both of those things. Today, I would like to talk about some things that are really concerning me as I'm starting to notice which details people on social media are running with as they make content and tasteless jokes and memes surrounding the arrest, imprisonment, and crimes of Sean Combs. Obviously, I'm very aware that we live in a society and everything, and that even the most horrifying things are constantly turned into memes and conspiracy theory fodder, and I can do little to nothing about that. But it's something that I would like to voice my discomfort with and kind of open a space for other people to voice similar discomfort if they would like to, and also really encourage some real hesitance around what we spread in regards to cases like this and why, because apparently it's very easy to just in a vacuum believe that you don't think jokes about sexual violence are funny, but then you turn around and make jokes about sexual violence once it's just a half step removed from that. So I just want to voice what I can in a way that I hope is helpful. Content warning right off the bat, obviously we are going to be discussing something really horrific today. If you've already watched similar videos that I've made in the past, you're already kind of familiar with my approach with this, but I try to avoid being particularly salacious about, triggering specifics, but we are still having a conversation about conversations about sexual violence, and therefore about sexual violence itself, so if that doesn't feel like something that is safe for you to engage with right now, please just hold off until this feels like a more safe topic. This video is not going anywhere. It'll still be here once this feels like something that's more comfortable for you. Also, especially relevant since I just said I'm not getting into so many specific details in this video, if you are curious for more information regarding Sean Combs, you can find some articles I'm pulling from in the description below. Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, was charged on Tuesday, September 17th on counts of, per Variety, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The article says Combs is charged with a, quote, persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals, end quote. The indictment alleges that Combs and his associates would threaten and coerce victims into participating in days-long sex events called freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded, the indictment states. So, it's the freak-offs that I want to talk about. Not specifically the freak-offs, not the specifics of the freak-offs, but the way that people are speaking about the freak-offs, the way that they're joking about them online. A lot of what is spurring me to make this video is just the way that I immediately, as soon as I read the words freak-off, I was like, oh my god. As soon as I read that name for it, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be such a meme, and that is so horrific. And part of why it's so concerning to me is, and I'm not saying that this is why these were deemed that in the first place, but freak off is a very dismissive and somewhat silly sounding name for something that sounds to have been incredibly, incredibly traumatic for the victims. Freak off is a name that, asks people to be heartless and to make memes, so they are doing that. They are being flippant. They are focusing on small details that are a really easy distraction for the reality of what's actually being alleged. I'm still reading from Variety here. According to the indictment, Combs would hire male sex workers, sometimes arranging for them to be transported across state lines or internationally. At a press conference, Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, said the women were given ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB. Afterwards, Combs and the participants often required IV fluids to recuperate from the drug use, the indictment states. During searches of Combs' residence in March, investigators seized, quote, freak-off supplies, end quote, including drugs and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and other lubricant, the indictment states. This baby oil thing really bothers me in terms of the discourse. It's an easy meme, a ridiculous number, a distraction, made even more tempting by the way that Sean Combs' lawyer attempts to put out a statement, saying he simply buys in bulk. And they tried to claim that he does that because all of his houses are near Costco's. And then Costco got involved. Costco responded and said that they don't even sell baby oil, and apparently neither does, Sam's, and people are getting very distracted about that, which, granted, I also didn't know that Costco and Sam's don't sell baby oil at all, but, it's not the point, and the baby oil itself is not why it's concerning that there would be like 1,000 bottles of other lubricant and also baby oil, but the lawyer is trying to use the baby oil as a sticking point, saying that he doesn't think there's really 1,000 and that he doesn't know where that number comes from in this whole interview that he did for TMZ for a Tubi documentary that they did about the indictment. I will admit to you, I did not watch that for this video. There are just some things I don't want to put myself through. It's not surprising to me, though, that even though this is a claim coming directly from the United States Attorney, which I saw the interviewer from TMZ remind him of in the trailer for that Tubi thing, they're just denying it, because that seems to have been their approach to pretty much everything I've seen so far, with one notable exception that we're about to get to. His approach seems to be to deny, and then also to throw in accusations of being after money or out to destroy his reputation. And that exception, even then, he tried to deny the claims that Cassie Ventura made against him, a claim that he very quickly settled with her in November of 2023. She filed a 35-page complaint, and then they decided to settle, and she asked for the case to be dismissed. And they tried to paint that as not being evidence of his guilt. He just happened to decide to settle with her, until video footage came out that really deeply corroborated a lot of what Cassie was saying. I'm not gonna show it to you here, part of my whole not wanting to get into gratuitous things. I do want to read instead from an article by Moira Donegan titled, "Why Did It Take a Humiliating Video for Us to Believe Cassie's Claims About Diddy?" If you haven't seen the video yet, please trust me that you don't need to watch it. Last week, CNN released surveillance footage of an attack by Sean Combs, the rapper and producer, against his ex-partner, the singer Cassie Ventura, at a Los Angeles hotel in 2016. In the footage, shot in a hotel hallway and at an elevator landing, Ventura, in a hoodie, tries to flee the hotel room she was sharing with Combs. She appears to be in a rush. She has bags of her things, and when she reaches the elevator bank, she's still trying to put on her shoes. She's just moments from getting away, but Combs, naked save for a towel, marches down the hallway and finds her. He throws Ventura to the ground and begins kicking her. Later, he corners her and pelts a vase at her. The video ends when Combs drags Ventura, still on the ground, down the hallway, back to their hotel room. In the video, when Combs kicks Ventura, she lies perfectly still on the patterned carpet, her hunched frame carrying a practiced resignation. It does not appear to be the first time that this has happened. Many did not believe Ventura when she filed her lawsuit, which, in addition to the abuse at the Los Angeles hotel, detailed a series of alleged attacks, druggings, rape, sex trafficking, and forced production of pornography by Combs. That Ventura disclosed all this painful and humiliating information in public, in such detail and at such risk, was not enough for some people to believe her. That Combs paid Ventura off almost immediately in order to stop the lawsuit wasn't enough either. They didn't believe her when 3 other women and 1 man made similar allegations against Combs, including rape, sexual harassment, non-consensual pornography, and trafficking. And they did not believe her when Combs's Miami and LA homes were raided by the Department of Homeland Security this past spring, allegedly in connection with a federal sex trafficking investigation. For his part, Combs at the time denied all of Ventura's allegations, as he has denied the allegations from his other accusers. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy, Combs said in a statement issued last year, soon after several of the suits were filed. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. But after CNN released the video of him assaulting Ventura last week, he changed his tune. In a video posted to his Instagram account on Sunday, Combs admitted to the violence shown in the footage, despite having previously denied it. "My behavior in that video is inexcusable," he said. "I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I am disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now." He thought that when it was her word against his, he would win. The video seems to have changed his calculation. It shouldn't have. There are few issues that spark such flights of fancy, such creative and dogged denial as accusations of gender violence. In order to deny that men rape, assault, and beat women, people will invent conspiracy theories of women out to destroy men. They will question the basic functions of memory and identification. They will concoct elaborate plots in which the accusing women are evil or insidious, condescending rationales in which they are crazy. This epistemic flight from the reality of gender abuse is itself a kind of insanity. People will do crazy, deranged, and degrading things in order to not have to believe women. But Ventura should have been believed from the start. That the video evidence matches her account of the attack is exactly a sign of what every expert in sexual and domestic abuse already knows, that people really do lie about rape and abuse. They lie about it baldly and maliciously all the time, but it's not the women who accuse men who do this lying, it's the men who deny it. Ventura met Combs in 2005, when she was 19 and he was 37. There is one reason why men pursue women who are so dramatically younger than them, because they think those women are easy to control. She didn't get free of him until 2019. She deserves those years back. She also deserves privacy, to not be defined by the worst things that someone else did to her. Now, a video of one of the worst moments of her life has gone viral, a humiliation that she does not deserve. You don't have to watch the video. No one should have to watch it. Because they should have believed her the first time. Following the release and subsequent virality of the elevator footage, Cassie Ventura responded on Instagram, posting, "Thank you for all of the love and support from my family, friends, strangers, and those I have yet to meet. The outpouring of love has created a place for my younger self to settle and feel safe now, but this is only the beginning. Domestic violence is the issue. It broke me down to someone I never thought I would become. With a lot of hard work, I am better today, but I will always be recovering from my past. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to take this matter seriously. My only ask is that everyone open your heart to believing victims the first time. It takes a lot of heart to tell the truth out of a situation that you were powerless in. I offer my hand to those that are still living in fear. Reach out to your people. Don't cut them off. No one should carry this weight alone. This healing journey is never ending, but this support means everything to me. Thank you. Love always, Cassie." Cassie is much more widely believed, I think, not just following the elevator video, which did absolutely change the tone of the discourse, but also following the indictment and the raid on his mansions, things that we all had been seeing happening over the last year or so between when that video came out and now. But something I'm concerned about is that Cassie Ventura is not particularly staying a main character here as we're discussing culturally our concerns about all of this. I'll explain what I mean. I think a lot of reasons why things are moving into this kind of conspiratorial tilt that I really distrust. But the first one that I just want to name is that I think a lot of this, as we see Cassie made into less and less of a major figure in the discourse, because we are instead focusing on things like trying to investigate who exactly was at white parties, which are being conflated to be the same thing as a freak-off, or trying to figure out who else may have known things behind the scenes, who else was trying to enable things, and also a lot of concern for Justin Bieber. I think a lot of that concern for Justin Bieber is rooted in conspiratorial thinking, something we're going to get more into because it is all over the discourse surrounding this. But I also think, like, more presently than that, or at least more in terms of it being something that I want to focus on, I think this focus pulling away from Cassie and from the other known victims is not just a function of misogyny and gender violence, as Moira puts, but also specifically I think that this is a function of racism as well, and racism against Black women. The specific word for that is misogynoir. I'm not sitting here pretending like I should be the main person talking about this. I would love to hear more about this from a woman of color. I looked for articles saying the same and I haven't quite found them yet, but I'm sure I just have not yet found them. Like, I'm sure that they exist. But it feels worth noting that, like, you know, as a white woman, this is something that I'm seeing. I think that this is happening because it is a defense mechanism for broader white culture to be able to have something to feel empathy for when they're not willing to extend that specifically to Black women. Or at least not as unquestioningly as they're able to extend it to their idea of if something had happened to this young white boy. And I'm not saying that every single person being conspiracy-brained about this is doing it because they realize that they're racist. I'm just saying, I think looking at the facts of the case, looking at Cassie Ventura, looking at Joy Dickerson-Neal, how many of the victims we're aware of who are women of color, it's extremely telling that the person who I've honestly seen the most concern for outside of my own feminist circles is, again, Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber has not made any allegations about Diddy. Everything people are currently spreading is a lot of speculation, a lot of theorizing. I'm obviously not saying that nothing happened. I'm also not saying that none of Diddy's victims were men. We know that some were, and I'm not saying that none of them were white. And we also know that some were in that case as well. But I worry that this is happening because it's not as easy to conceive as black women as the sort of victims who deserve concern and rallying around in their own right as it is to turn Justin Bieber into your surrogate. That it's this idea of Justin Bieber as this then young white boy as a thing to project the empathy that you should be feeling onto actual victims. Like, that's really appealing for some reason, I guess. I'll tell you outright that I am not educated enough to be doing more than just telling you that this is something that I've noticed. Obviously, racism in general, and particularly racism against black women, is something that we need to be listening to people who are affected by it, and we need to be listening to black women speaking about, and not white women named Ophi YouTube videos. But I also just, again, I wanted to name a thing what I think it is. I think that that's what's coming into play here. I think the trauma, and especially traumatic sexual assault against women of color, is just something that I've seen memed too many times to not make this video and say, for whatever it's worth, like, hey, knock it off. And it isn't only racism, though I obviously do think the racism is a defining element here, but I think it's also worth noting that what we do know of many of the victims who we don't know by name is that they were sex workers, another category of people who very often get excluded from empathy, both by people who purport to support women and by people who don't. A category of victims who also seem to test the limits of common empathy from what I've seen of discourse surrounding Epstein as well. It's stupid. Epstein conspiracy also, I think, is another factor into this. I mean, maybe it's the similarities between this and some of the things we've heard of Epstein doing to his victims that tickles that part of people's brains. Maybe it's just our unending desire to exploit and profit off of victims. And I don't just mean profit by way of clickbait and the social clout of pretending like you're uncovering hidden messages in a Justin Bieber music video from 2020, but in some cases much more literal and direct profit, like the guy who wrote the fake book from the point of view of Kim Porter. I'm reading from an article that you can find linked in the description below from Vanity Fair regarding this book. At the beginning of September, he independently published Kim's Lost Words, a 59-page book billed on Amazon as a memoir by Kim Porter, the deceased ex-girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, with whom she shared 3 children, as well as a son from a prior marriage who Combs adopted. When prosecutors announced sex trafficking and racketeering charges against the hip-hop mogul last week, it set off an understandable wave of intrigue, and, given his Epstein-like tentacles surrounding fame and wealth, predictable tinges of conspiracy. Parentheses, he has pleaded not guilty, end parentheses. Kim's Lost Words rose to the top of the Amazon bestseller list during the first days of Combs' detention at a federal prison in Brooklyn, slotting above new works by Sally Rooney and Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm not doing it for the money, Todd told me this week, though he acknowledged that he had made a fair bit. I'm the voice of the voiceless. According to Todd, the memoir is based on a flash drive that Porter had left behind after her 2018 death, which also contained, quote, tapes of Diddy with celebrities in sexual situations, end quote. He said he received portions of the drive from a celebrity source who was, quote, very close inside the Diddy and Kim and hip-hop circles, end quote, and who had joined forces with another hip-hop source to bring these materials to Todd's manager. This guy is asking for anonymity from the author of the Vanity Fair article, who grants him that, and who reviews the book by saying, Kim's Lost Words is pulpy beyond the point of parody, with a camp appeal diminished by the real-life stakes of an unfolding criminal case. The author recounts a litany of abuse and violence and lays out an elaborate series of partner swaps and sexual experimentation involving an array of celebrities. Porter's alleged memoir concludes with her appearing to predict her own murder as she falls ill and texts friends, "He got me." Versions of this theory have swirled in gossip circles since Porter's sudden death from pneumonia at 47 years old. In the last year, since Combs was first accused of sexual abuse, they have taken on a renewed urgency online. In an appearance on the hip-hop media personality DJ Academic's podcast in April, Donald Trump Jr. puffed on a cigar as he recounted a conversation with his ex-wife, Vanessa Trump, a friend of Porter's from their New York modeling days, in which Vanessa said that she did not believe that Porter's death was, quote, just natural. Porter's ex-husband, Albert Joseph Brown, the New Jack Swing singer and 1980s-era Quincy Jones protege known as Al B. Sure, has taken a similar tack since the rise of Kim's lost words. He and Porter, quote, talked right up to a few days prior to her demise, end quote, he wrote in a 3-part Instagram statement calling for an investigation into what he claims was her murder. The Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner Coroner determined in January 2019 that Porter died from lobar pneumonia. Still, he insisted that the supposed memoir was fake, at least partially, and threatened legal action against its creators. Brown allowed that there was such a thing as, quote, original book notes, end quote, from which a, quote, fake unauthorized edit, end quote, was gleaned. I'm willing to have a conversation with Al B. Sure. Absolutely, Todd said. If he wants to escalate it, then I have ways that I can escalate it too. And per Variety, but the children mentioned in that article from Vanity Fair, Quincy, Christian, King Combs, Delilah Combs, and Jesse Combs also slammed the book in a social media post. We have seen so many hurtful and false rumors circulating about our parents, Kim Porter and Sean Combs' relationship, as well as about our mom's tragic passing, that we feel the need to speak out, they wrote in the statement. Claims that our mom wrote a book are simply untrue. She did not, and anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves. Additionally, please understand that any so-called friend speaking on behalf of our mom or her family is not a friend, nor do they have her best interests at heart. Our lives were shattered when we lost our mother, the statement continued. She was our world, and nothing has been the same since she passed. While it has been incredibly difficult to reconcile how she could be taken from us too soon, the cause of her death has long been established. There was no foul play. Grief is a lifelong process, and we ask that everyone respect our request for peace as we continue to cope with her loss every day. We are deeply saddened that the world has made a spectacle of what has been the most tragic event of our lives. And yeah, that's fucked up. I tried looking around online to see if Kim Porter had previously alleged abuse from Diddy, and I didn't see her ever having come forward about that. And this, again, much like the thing where people are trying to read subliminal messaging into Justin Bieber's early work, makes me wonder why we're so desperate to find a different victim when we already have victims coming forward. In Kim Porter's case, obviously, it's not that it's because she is not also a woman of color, because she was, but it is, I think, relevant that there's a desire to make more of a victim out of somebody who is no longer there to tell their own side of the story. And I think just this whole book thing is really ghoulish. It's fucked up that this kind of thing can just, like, be listed on Amazon and then become a bestseller on the whims of the internet. Like, it is very obviously fake. I saw some pages of it on Twitter and I was like, oh my god. It's bad. I don't like it. I don't like that this exists. I feel bad for the family. I feel bad for Kim Porter's memory. Like, I don't think this should exist. Hopefully they're able to, like, sue this guy and get whatever amount of money he's earned from it, because I bet it was a lot. I've seen TikTok breakdowns of Justin Bieber music videos, as I referenced earlier, claiming that there are hidden messages in that. I've seen people even trying to claim baby, 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 oh, was baby oil. And, like, I'm sure some of this is a joke, but I'm also, unfortunately, sure some of it is not. And I feel similarly as well about all of this stuff that I'm seeing where Beyonce is suddenly being brought into conspiracy theories. And it's stuff that I can't even really follow. I know I'm sitting here making a video. I probably should put more effort in to be able to truly follow it. But, like, things are being posted trying to connect Beyonce to all of this and saying that, like, Taylor Swift was a threat to Beyonce's career, so Kanye West interrupted her during the VMAs and it was actually Beyonce's fault. And, like, that's probably a joke, but also there are people who are stupid enough who are just going to twist around all of this shit in their brain, and it's just like, this is all about something that is real. And it's being so far removed from anything real. It's very similar to a lot of what I criticize in the response to, and I'm sorry that I tie everything into this apparently, but it's a lot of what I criticize in the response to Quiet on Set, and that desire that because we're aware of things that are bad, but they are not bad in the way that we want them to be, or about the people we want them to be, or whatever. We just also make up our own stuff, and we say, well, the Nickelodeon logo is like the Epstein Island shape. Did you ever notice that? You know what I mean? It feels very similar to me. It feels like a lot of these same people are going to be making a lot of these same conclusions, and that's really fucked up. I'm not going to disbelieve Justin Bieber if he comes forward and he has something to say about something having happened to him, but I also don't think that we need to be investigating and trying to decide whether or not it has. I don't think baby oil jokes are funny. I don't think, ha ha ha, how am I supposed to explain to my grandma what a freak off is funny. Like, I don't. I guess the point of this video was just me sitting here being a feminist killjoy about things that I'm sure the rest of my audience already is upset about, but like, I just wanted to talk about it, and my channel is where I talk about things. I'm also sure other people will be going down in connection with Diddy. Like, I'm positive I've already seen some names dropped in articles that I have read about various cases that are going on. Like, I'm sure I'm saying, like, I'm concerned about conspiratorial thinking while also knowing that, like, there is a lot of this that probably will come out and sound like a grand conspiracy, but it's just that abuse doesn't actually require so much of a conspiracy. The system we live in, patriarchy, is the conspiracy that allows abuse to perpetuate and flourish. So people who are powerful and who have those, like, abilities to exert that power get away with things and find people who help them get away with things until they no longer reasonably can. I mean, that's what happened here, and people are like, oh, this is the same thing as Weinstein. It's not because there's, like, secret whatever behind the same that's both of them. It's because it's like, this is abuse. Abuse looks the same from case to case often because the way that people are abusive to people is often the same. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry this isn't more actionable. What else can you do, really? I wanted to voice that I think it's important to maintain our focus on the people who we should be focused on. And I wanted to voice that I don't think that we need to share the Cassie elevator footage to share that point. We won't need to share any other footage that may come to light otherwise in the future either. And we especially do not need to joke about it. We do not need to take every possible opportunity to decenter Black women or sex workers or people of color from victimhood in situations where it's very clear that they are the victims. And I think we don't need to be so worried about Justin Bieber. Like, I think he's fine. He hasn't come out and said anything. I think he's fine, and I think it's weird we're focusing so much on him potentially not being. I'll be back very soon to talk about something else. Thank you so much for watching.